The Space Race 2.0 is underway, and once again, the moon is the prize. But this time, it's not about geopolitics, it's about water. Historically, moon missions have been dominated by the US and USSR, landing 19 times during the Cold War. Since then, China, India, and Japan have made it to the surface.
The moon race is back, and this time it's bigger than ever. Decades after the first man walked on the moon, countries and even private companies are now rushing to get their flag on the lunar surface. But why? What's really driving this new space race, and who's leading the charge? Back in 1969, the world watched as the US landed on the moon, marking a huge victory in the Cold War space race against the Soviet Union. That historic moment felt like the end of an era, but here we are again, with the world's top powers gearing up for a new kind of competition. Now, it's not just about pride. It's about resources, strategy, and the future of humanity. In this new race to the moon, it's not just the US and Russia anymore. China, Europe, and even private companies like SpaceX are entering the game. The real question is, why are they so interested in the moon now? And what does winning this race mean for the future of space exploration? Are we about to witness a new era of superpower rivalry, this time in space? Let's dive in. The players in the new moon race.
China sent its youngest ever crew to its orbiting space station today as the country reiterated plans to put astronauts on the moon by the end of the decade.
So, who's in this new moon race? Well, it's not just the US and Russia like before. This time there are more players, and each one has their own reasons for wanting to reach the moon. First up, the US is back in the game. NASA, with the help of private companies like SpaceX, is pushing to get astronauts back on the moon by 2025 through its Artemis program. The goal? To set up a long-term presence on the moon and eventually use it as a stepping stone for future missions to Mars. Then we have China, which has been making big moves in space. China already landed a rover on the far side of the moon in 2019. A world first, and now they have plans to build a lunar base by the 2030s. They see the moon as a way to boost their technological capabilities and prove themselves as a major player in space. Russia, of course, isn't out of the picture. Although they've had some setbacks, like a recent failed lunar mission, they're still determined to reassert themselves in the space race.
An attempt to land a spacecraft on the moon apparently failed today. A Japanese company was trying to become the first private business to pull off a lunar landing, but flight controllers lost contact with the spacecraft moments before it planned its touchdown.
Their new goal is to establish a base on the moon as well, and they've even talked about working with China to make it happen. And let's not forget the private companies. SpaceX, Blue Origin, and other companies are also eyeing the moon. But for them, it's not just about national pride. They see the moon as a potential goldmine for resources, technology, and even tourism. With so many players now involved, the race to the moon has become more complex, and the stakes are higher than ever before. The strategic importance of the moon. So, why is the moon suddenly so important again? Well, it's not just about planting a flag and taking some pictures like it was in the 60s. This time around, the moon holds strategic value for both science and economics. One big reason is the moon's resources. The lunar surface contains valuable materials like helium-3, which could be used for future energy sources, and rare earth metals, which are critical for technology. There's also water ice in the moon's polar regions. This water could be used to support a permanent lunar base, or even be split into hydrogen and oxygen for rocket fuel, making it easier to launch missions deeper into space. The moon's location also makes it an ideal spot for scientific research. Because it has no atmosphere, It provides a perfect environment for studying the universe and could be used as a base for telescopes and other instruments. But it's not just about science. The moon's strategic location means it could become a hub for launching missions to Mars and beyond. By establishing a permanent base on the moon, countries could gain a serious advantage in the next phase of space exploration. In short, whoever controls the moon could have a major head start in controlling the future of space, which is why the stakes in this new moon race are so high. The rising competition among nations. As more countries and private companies jump into the moon race, the competition is getting fierce. The stakes are no longer just about pride or being the first to land on the moon like back in 1969. This time, it's about who can claim the most resources, who can establish a lasting presence, and who can take the lead in space exploration. Take China and the US, for example. These two nations are now the main competitors in the new space race. While NASA is pushing forward with the Artemis program, aiming to land astronauts on the moon by 2025.
Okay. We see that one went all the way in.
China is close behind with its plans to set up a research station on the moon by the early 2030s. The rivalry between these two superpowers isn't just about space. It's also a reflection of the bigger geopolitical competition happening on Earth. Both countries want to prove that their technology is superior and that they have the power to dominate space exploration.
The spacecraft, called the Chang'e 6, lifted off from the southern island province of Hainan. It's expected to bring the samples back to Earth within 2 months.
But it's not just about the US and China. Other countries, like India, Japan, and even the European Union, are ramping up their space programs too. India made headlines with its Chandrayaan missions, especially after landing near the moon's south pole, a highly coveted spot because of the water ice that could be found there.
It has become now the fourth country to land a spacecraft on the moon after the US and China and the former Soviet Union. Just moments ago, we're talking just a...
India has made space history, becoming the first nation to soft land a spacecraft on the moon's south pole.
Japan's space agency, JAXA, is also working on lunar missions, with plans to send astronauts to the moon in the near future. Russia, despite its recent setbacks, is still determined to stay in the race, though they've had a few failures recently. Russia's history in space exploration makes them a contender. They're working on their Lunar program, and while their focus is a bit different from the past, they remain determined to make their mark on the moon once again. What's clear is that the race to the moon is no longer about planting flags and taking glory shots. It's about who will control the resources and technology of tomorrow. The moon offers so much potential in terms of research, development, and resources that no country wants to be left behind. Private space ventures, game changers in the moon race. While nations are battling it out, private companies are quietly changing the game in the moon race. Companies like SpaceX, Blue Origin, and others are no longer just supporting players. They're leading the charge in some cases. SpaceX, for instance, is working closely with NASA on the Artemis program, but Elon Musk has much bigger plans. He wants to take humanity beyond the moon, and the company's technology, like the Starship rocket, could make lunar missions cheaper and faster than ever before. This makes SpaceX a key player in the moon race, and its advancements could change how quickly and efficiently we can reach the lunar surface.
It's going, baby. It's going. Come on, baby. Let's go. All right, so what you got?
Blue Origin, Jeff Bezos' space venture, is also eyeing the moon. They're developing lunar landers and have their own vision of space exploration. Like SpaceX, Blue Origin sees the moon as a stepping stone to bigger things. They believe that private space companies can create a permanent presence on the moon and beyond. The rise of these private companies means that space exploration is no longer solely in the hands of governments. The competition is now more dynamic, and the moon race is more open than ever. The geopolitical impact of the new moon race. The new moon race isn't just about space exploration. It has serious geopolitical consequences. The countries leading in this race will gain more influence, not just in space, but on Earth too. Think about it. Whoever controls space could control communication, surveillance, and even military advantage. The moon, with its potential resources like water ice and minerals, can become the next big asset in global power struggles. China and the US are well aware of this. They're not just competing for space dominance, but also trying to show the world who's leading in innovation and technological power. The outcome of this race could shift global alliances, economic power, and military strategy. Space is becoming the new frontier for asserting power, and the moon is the prime battleground. In the future, we might even see space treaties and partnerships form or break based on how things unfold in this competition. The moon is more than just a scientific goal. It's a symbol of future geopolitical power, and the world is watching to see which country or company takes the lead. With the rapid advancements in technology, it's not far-fetched to imagine a future where humans live on the moon. Lunar colonization is no longer just a sci-fi dream. It's becoming a real possibility. Nations and private companies are already planning how to build habitats, extract resources, and create sustainable life on the moon. The idea of living on the moon also raises questions about how we'll govern space. Will there be moon cities owned by nations, or will private companies take the lead? How will resources be divided? These are challenges the world will need to address as we move closer to making lunar colonization a reality. Conclusion. So, who will win the new moon race? It's hard to say. Nations like the US and China are clearly the frontrunners, with other countries not far behind. Private companies are shaking things up, and the competition is fierce. But in the end, the real winner might be humanity itself. As we push the boundaries of space exploration, we're setting the stage for a new era of innovation, cooperation, and discovery. If you're excited about the future of space exploration and want to keep up with the latest in business and tech, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. There's so much more to explore, and we'll be covering it all right here. Stay tuned for more videos.